Thank you very much, and welcome to our little talk about our VR journey over the years. First of all, who are we? So my name is Roither. I'm the technical expert in the digital product line. We will talk a little bit about that later on.
And my name is Andreas, or just Andy, or Andy, it's totally fine for me. I'm the product manager / customer dude, so in charge of finding out what customers actually want and how we create value.
So a few words about Palfinger. Maybe not everyone in the room knows what Palfinger is. So we are, for Austria, a fairly large company, 12,500 employees, and we make huge construction machinery. So we make cranes, we make forklifts, different types of construction equipment. And Palfinger is split into various product areas. So we have the loader cranes, we have the hook and skip loaders, we have truck-mounted forklifts, we have various marine equipment things, and then there is one special one, which is this one, and yes, this QR code actually works. This is for the digital product line, or product line digital. This is where Andy and me are working, and Andy will talk a little bit about what this digital product line does.
Yeah, so when you say digital product line, it can be everything from digital twin to whatever, to AI and so on, but our three core topics are connected or connected plus, which actually means we put telematics units on our machines like every other machine supplier, and we collect this kind of data and then provide it to different users, for example, workshops, to end users, to big logistics companies, or to our dealers themselves. In the middle, you see our data science team, which connects the left and the right side, which do analysis on the data we create on the machine side, and of course also the data we produce on the simulator side. And last but not least is our team, their team XR3D, and our goal is to bring real VR to the scale, let's say. But what does this actually mean? So we have two focus topics, like you probably assume. One is marketing and sales, where usually every use case comes from, promote, sell, showcase, do stuff like that. And the other hand, we have train and service, like how to train people, how to train products, how to train features. We focused on three different topics, which are is on the left side sales tools, so 3D and XR enhanced selling, better selling, upselling, or as you would say, less lost orders because the people understand the product better, something like that. Then we have remote support tools. You can check for Smart Eye. It's a remote support solution. And on the right side, you have the operated training tools, which is the core of our today's discussion. That's why it's marked in yellow. So it's about operator training, how to train operators not on the real machine, but on the virtual machine. And that's where Mario will follow up with a wrap-up, how we came to where we are right now.
Yeah, here you see when it loads, it has a few pictures, so it takes a while. Here you see an overview slide, and you might notice that this number here is quite a few years ago. That's when we started with our VR journey at Palfinger. Technically, it starts a little bit earlier. It starts with my own backing of the Kickstarter project with Oculus, never receiving the headset. That's a different story. And then 2016, HTC Vive released. So who here, show of hands, still remembers the labs demo of HTC Vive? Quite a few hands. This is what single-handedly kickstarted the VR journey at Palfinger. I took a gaming laptop, I took the goggles, I went around the company, showed people what this technology can do, how they can interact with it, started gathering ideas, gathering inspirations, see where it can lead. We had a few different branches that branched off of this, and one of them was the first tool on 2016, the trunk-mounted forklift tool, which is a static environment in Unity Engine at that time with a new type of forklift, which was made for the North American market. Now, what did we do with this? This wasn't a trade fair tool. This was never released to any sort of public event. This was used to connect our engineers in Austria with customers over the pond. So this was a multiplayer experience. They gathered in the back room. There is a little bit of room back there. They could gather together and then go into this showroom, talk about this new product, gather feedback before the first steel version of this was actually built. So that's what we used this for. This was quite successful in the company, so we continued on with our next product line, and we decided to go to what we call the aerial work platforms. So those are mainly aluminum baskets, like you see here, mounted on a long arm, so you can actually reach high places. We make them up to 100 meters high in real life. They are used to service anything on a facade, change light bulbs, service a wind turbine, things like that. And while the previous tool was static, so you could go in, you had digital cameras and everything, but the product didn't move. Here we started to integrate control systems. So you see the two guys, it's still a multiplayer experience. One up there standing in front of the gray box there. The gray box has joysticks, so you could actually drive the product in VR, which was really cool. And this picture is taken at Apex Amsterdam, which was, or is, I think, the largest aerial work platform event, at least in Europe. And we released a new type of aerial work platform using VR. The real one was standing there. It wasn't operational yet. The people could come and drive it in VR, which was really, really cool to see, and see the engagement. We were, of course, the only ones at the whole exhibition who had VR. That also applies to the next one. Because of the success of the aerial work platform, we now went to our core business, the one we are most known for, which is the loader crane. And we had a simulator. You see a generic construction site, a big crane. At the time, this was a new model. And if you know construction machinery, you might have heard of IAA and Bauma, two huge construction events. And that was 2017, 2018, those two events. And again, we used VR to make this product operational at the trade fair. It is not possible for a random visitor coming to our booth to drive a crane. It's simply not allowed because of safety reasons. Nowadays, we've managed to do it a little bit with lots of restrictions and someone standing there with a red button to stop it in case the guy goes crazy. But at the time, it wasn't simply possible, so we used VR to make it operational. And we again included we used our real remote control. So you see the guy standing there. This is a newer picture, so it's a newer headset, but same concept. The guy standing there with remote control hanging in front of his belly. That's the real thing that is used to operate a real crane with a Vive tracker on top, so you can actually see it when you look down, and you can drive and do tasks in VR. This is actually also what we migrated or redeveloped into an operator training tool, and Andy is going to talk about that a little bit later. It continued on. Everyone at the company at this point has seen this, has seen that it's successful, that it can show off what the product can do. So we used it to make a simulator for one of the probably most difficult products that we produce. It's a crane mounted on tracks. It can disassemble itself and crawl through narrow gateways. Difficult to show off the features. So we made a simulator for that. Thumbs up. Then we started to introduce software features that are difficult to show at a trade show. So this is a crane that has a specific feature that's called load detection, so HPC load in our terms. It knows how much is still on the bed of the truck, and it can lift further when there is more still on the bed. How do you visualize that in real life? You cannot really show it. So we did kind of an augmented reality in VR thing, where we display the load curve in blue, and it shrinks the more you unload from the truck. So you can actually visualize to a driver what is the impact of this software feature, and why do you maybe need it or don't need it. Really cool use case. And we had a bit of fun, because this crane is operated from a seat mounted on the crane. And you can see we actually took a crane, cut it in half, welded it to a plate, and that's our control system. Yeah? So you sit on the real seat and operate the virtual crane. Also, of course, you saw the product areas before. We didn't forget our blue guys. the marine business, so we also made a simulator for fish farm. So this is a boat, a customer boat, which is used in fish farming or salmon fishing, I think. They have different products on there. 2 cranes are actually operational. You can do various tasks on the boat and show off this kind of products. This was mainly for trade fairs, not so much for training or anything else. Yeah. And lastly, we also did a big offshore crane. We have some guys up in Norway, Scandinavia area that do huge wire fin cranes for oil and gas and so on. And they wanted a simulator just to show a few software features as well, so we made one for them as well. But that was all within still the digital product line that we talked about before, and didn't exist at this point. It was still all within what we called the corporate incubator. We just did new technology, getting that technology into the company, showing it off to our colleagues, and getting them to use it. And then Andy will continue.
Yeah, thank you. So we are out in terms of timeline about in early 2020. Everyone knows then COVID kicks in. No trade fairs, no big events, nothing like that. But anyway, during these times, a lot of customers who bought the simulator, the trade fair tool back in 2018-19, they came to us during that time and said, well, we want to have new features. Can you develop new features for us? We really use these things in our training department. And we said, yeah, well, you bought a trade fair tool back then. I said, yeah, but we use it for training. So we did a lot of investigations and found out that it's also not only a trade fair tool, but in the future it could be also a training tool. But we have to test our hypothesis first. That's why we enhanced the functionality of this crane here. You've seen it before with the user. We built together with our development team new features, means new environments, new load attachments. That's the thing that is mounted on the crane, so you can show different types of operation, and of course, user interface. And we did this to build an MVP. Everyone knows the minimum viable product. And with this MVP, we went out in the European market to test it with field test customers, with people who already have a simulator. And we introduced it to them as this is what a training simulator can look like. And it really helped us a lot. You know, VR, the concept is all about putting somebody the glasses on, and when you have a real functional MVP, it's much easier to convince people that this really makes sense. So that's where we are right now. So there was a transition from 2022 to 23. This topic of VR and VR training simulators went out of the incubator and got placed into the new digital product line, the Department for the Digital Solutions, with the goal to build a real product, not only the showcase, but a product, meaning it should stand for itself. You should earn enough to regain all the development and so on. But we talk a lot about the software. Maybe you're also interested in how the system actually looks. Hopefully. Yeah. So what was the new package about? We had a package back then in 2018, but maybe you want to follow up with the package.
The old one or the new one, or both? Actually, we had a trade fair package, which was just my tool that I wanted to build for the trade fair. I had everything in a nice, big, heavy-duty pelly case. You could just put the pelly case anywhere, plug the cables in directly, everything was mounted in there. Huge success for me, huge disaster for anyone who managed to find someone who would sell them one of those units. We never intended to sell them. I forgot to say that before. Yeah. So that was a trade fair tool. It was for us a one-shot thing.
35 kilograms.
35 kilograms, really. And then customers came and found some guy who promised them he would organize them one of those units. And then 20 of those made it out into the market, and it was a disaster because they ripped it apart, and all the cables were carefully laid out, and everything was working, and then it wasn't anymore. So for the new one, what you see up there, version 1.0.1.1 is not much of a difference. Everything is in the box. Everything is designed to be taken out of the box, assembled on the table, on the show floor, in the meeting room. We have a nice gaming laptop in there. We use a 4070. At the time we did the transition to the loader crane, we switched from Unity to Unreal. And we're actually using all the new features of Unreal, now switching to 5 with all the features that this brings to the market. And yeah, have everything in there. All the equipment, including stands for the lighthouses, all in one package, 5 minutes, you're up and running.
So maybe you ask yourself, what is the business about? So is there a real business behind this thing? So when we talk about VR simulators, we talk about the standard business and the project business. This project business means we do specific developments for specific customers. Of course, people come to us and say, but I want this crane type, but I want this environment. Then we build custom content for them if they, of course, pay for it and are willing to finance it. We have customers who want guided training. We have customers who want unguided training. So depending on the project, we develop both and then see what we can bring into the standard product. And of course, we moved away from trade fair tool to a step-by-step product training. On the other hand, the standard business, it's about scaling VR in B2B. B2B doesn't have the same amounts of hardware and software as consumer products, of course. But for us, it means we bring our simulators to our dealers, to our partners, and to the end customers. The examples shown here are showrooms, digital showrooms. First, you have to bring it to your own sales force and people, because if you don't have it on your own people, why should a customer buy it? On the other hand, we have lots of customers who want to buy it. So at the moment, we have the good situation that we have more requests than development power. That brings me...
Situation.
It's a good situation to have more requests than, more or less.
We have just yesterday came in basically a tiny 1-minute video that actually shows how this setup is in operation. So you see a beautiful model up there. So it's just the basket, you take out all the equipment. It's all in 2 layers, easy to assemble. Put on the headset and the remote control. You see it's the real remote control. And then you have an interaction menu in-game, basically, to change different scenarios. So we have a high-rise scenario there. The rope winch is optional. You can configure the crane as you want. We also have our assistance function. So our crane has a very simple method of operating. We call that smart control. We have that in there. We have a very narrow scenario. We have to lift big, bulky equipment through all the trusses and everything. All the stuff that our drivers said when they do it the first time, the hair stands up. That's the stuff we put in there for the start, and it's going to develop over time with additional scenarios, with additional training tools for beginners, for advanced people, what our customers actually need. So yeah, here you can see different types of equipment that you can select. Now this is a special equipment that gets the hook a little higher, so you can go into narrow spaces. So this is our VR simulator. We call it VR1 because it's the first version.
And of course, because we are one.
VR1,
yeah. And that's...
Yeah, so that's it. That is our journey through VR from 2016 to now. Thank you for listening.
Okay, now we have 5 minutes questions and answers. Yes.
Do you have your own Unreal developers in-house, or do you outsource that? And what was the sort of decision around that?
Nowadays we do. In the beginning we did not. We just had a few enthusiasts who tinkered around and then used external help. So the whole journey that you saw, the whole line of pictures going up, most of those, or all of those basically were done with an external group of developers who are actually present in the room. I don't know if they want me to show them, but they're sitting over there somewhere. Nowadays they are working in the company. So we decided to internalize it. Of course, you can't internalize everything. So some tasks that are very long, we might still give out to our third parties. But all the functionality, anything that is functionality related, we want to keep in-house. So we also have the knowledge in-house.
What made you move from Unity to Unreal? And what was the experience afterwards? Did you do it? Would you do it again, or?
So our move wasn't so much moving assets because we didn't have the projects of the previous simulators that we had in Unity. We didn't have the asset files. We only had the finished simulators. So we just switched engines because we also switched developers. But there was a second motivation. At the time, Unity didn't really look good. And nowadays, there is an HD render pipeline and everything is fine. But at the time, Unity kind of looked a little bit dated. And Unreal just did not. And nowadays, also, Unreal gives a lot of tools, a lot of free assets that you get with Quixel and everything that you can use, which is a nice platform for us at the moment.
When we started, Palfinger is in the branch a premium brand, which is the most expensive one in the loader crane sector and so on. So our goal was always that it has to look very good, and also the surroundings have to look very good. So there was no time that we thought of, okay, let's do some low-cost graphics because it doesn't fit to the brand or to the company.
Plus, with the good looks comes a side effect that was quite nice for us to see. We had real crane operators, like guys going in there, driving the crane, doing the tasks. When they were finished with the task, what did they do? They folded the crane again. They got it into transport position. And then they took off the glasses, and I asked them, why did you just do that? And they said, oh yeah, I forgot, I don't have to do that here. They were so in there because the fidelity is good enough, because the immersion is good enough that they've lost themselves in the simulation. And this is exactly what we want to reach, because then you do the most learning in your head.
If you happen to have someone who's going to schools and teach like children aged 12 to 15, something like that, about the energy transition and, for example, how to erect a wind turbine and stuff like that, and would you be able to rent or lend your product out to someone doing those workshops at school?
Yes, of course. We have rental stuff, but we also have sold one unit to the HMS in AMS in Salzburg, for example, because they wanted to have one on their own, but we also hand them out to schools and institutions. Yeah. Back then.
Just shout loudly. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nikita. I'm from Warsaw. Question: do you have like physically proper simulation of all hydraulic systems and stuff like this?
No, but maybe. At the moment in the VR simulator, we do not. The load is simulated, so the cable and everything is simulated using just Unreal Physics. The crane itself is very static. We are working on a good enough simulation of the crane. We don't need a perfect hydraulic and that we simulate the expansion of the hose and everything. Just not necessary for this use case. We have simulators like that in our development areas where we actually develop new products, new cranes, not in the VR. In the VR, we are working on getting a good enough that it feels right, get that kind of system in there with all the movement that the crane does. The crane does quite a bit of movement, especially if you have an arm that's like 50 meters and then have 500 kg hanging at the end, moving it around. That does quite a bit of movement. So we're working on that, but not yet. Soon.
Okay, thank you for all the questions. Give it up for Mario and Andreas. Great talk, guys.